thank you, Councillor Kingy. It is working? Okay, so we are live broadcasting. Welcome to our viewing audience out there and anywhere they may be. Item 1 on the council agenda is apologies. I have from Councillor Truman. 3:15. Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Rankin. Could I have a mover, please? They be accepted. Thank you, Councillor Williamson, seconded by Councillor Hickling. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
It's against, carried. Item 2 is conflicts of interest. Any of the items pertaining this afternoon? Councillor Jollins.
Through the Chair, I would just conflicts of interest for items 5.7 and 5.10. Thank you.
5.7 and 5.10. Thank you, Councillor Jollins. Do we need to move those? No, that's all right. That's just noted. Thank you very much, Councillor Jollins. No other conflicts of interest. Right. Item number 3, confirmation of minutes, ordinary council meeting, 26th of February. Any points of clarification of those minutes? Councillor Boddy.
Thank you, Your Worship. In regards to, I think it's on page 3, the petition in regards to Doherty Drive, what's the, I hear the staff are going to have a look. Is there any further developments? Sure. Or is it going back to Fred?
Mr. Green or Mr. Strongman?
Staff, we're going to have a look, which I believe is underway now. That we're then going to meet the chair of Fred committee out on site to bring something back to Fred. I think the next Fred meeting was our target.
We'll be at our next meeting of Fred.
Yeah, with
Thank
an
you.
action plan. That's the direction of work.
So, Doherty Drive is going to Fred with an action plan at some stage.
Just
Councillor Park.
thank you, through the Chair. I think there was actually a couple of councillors who were keen to have a look at that as well. We come up with these issues every now and then, and for us to just have a site visit and an understanding will make it easier going forward. So I'm just not quite sure how that dropped off.
So I'm sure that the invite can be extended to the other councillors at the time when the chair is going to be meeting.
Yeah, most definitely. Or before the Fred committee, we can have a site meeting like we've done previously.
Thank you, Councillor Hickling. So we'll be in touch. Just remember to turn your mics on. Okay, Councillor Boddy, thank you. Any other points of clarification of those minutes? Been the case, could I have a move for those minutes of the 28th of February? Thank you, Councillor Rankin, seconded by Councillor Park. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against? Carried. 3.2, ordinary council meeting on the 19th of March. Any points of clarification of those minutes? No, all pretty straightforward. Could I have a mover, please? Thank you. Councillor Jollins, seconded by Councillor Harvey. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. 4.1, the ordinary Taupo Airport Authority Committee meeting on the 18th of February. Any points of clarification on the airport meeting? Happy to move that, Councillor Rankin, seconded by Councillor Jollins. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. 4.2, ordinary Kinloch Representative Group meeting on the 28th of February. Points of clarification of those minutes. Moved by Councillor Jollins, seconded by Councillor Rankin. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. 4.3, Ordinary Audit and Risk Committee meeting on the 11th of March 2019. And there's a recommendation there, is there? Yeah. So the recommendation goes to an item on the agenda, isn't it? So do we don't approve that recommendation now, do we? Or? Yeah. Okay, so we'll consider it now. Okay. All right, so there's a recommendation there that the proposed asset disposal policy be adopted as well with that recommendation. Happy to move Councillor Hickling, seconded by Councillor Stewart. All those in favour, please say aye. It's against, carry. 5.1, minutes of the...
Chairman, just one matter arising from those.
Yes.
The MB audit report, it states here 2 to 3 weeks away. Has that arrived?
MB audit report?
Yeah, in regards of buildings.
It hasn't, Scott. You can probably update. We haven't had the report yet back from MB.
So hopefully there'll be no surprises like Warehouse. No surprises. Thank you.
No significant surprises, councillor.
Fine, significant.
All right, thank you very much. So we've moved and seconded those, so that's good. 5.1, minutes of the Lake Taupo Protection Project Joint Committee that was held on the 30th of November. Any points of clarification of those minutes to Councillor Williamson? No? All good? You happy to move those? Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Seconded by Councillor Hickling. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. 5.2, Northern Corridor Improvements. Here we go. Mr. 3, Mr. Kevin Strongman, Claire Charland and Dennis Lewis. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. We know it's a tricky paper. We're going to take the paper as read. Claire's got a couple, one clarification and one little error that we've got in the paper we want you guys to note.
Yeah, cool. If you can just pull that a bit closer to you, I think it might be a bit easier.
Okay, so Claire's just got one clarification and one mistake that we want to fix up, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Claire.
Afternoon, everybody. Just like to point out on the first line of the report, in the purpose, there's a error of 238,000. It actually should read 233,000. So that was just a error on our behalf. And in terms of the clarification for the budget in the LTP, there's 4 budget lines. We've got the signals, or the Northern Access Phase 1, I think it was, 479,000. Cycle facilities, which was for the control gates widening of the path up there, $80,000. The minor improvements at Poihipi and Wairaki were 30,000. And the gateway treatment was 127,000, so that makes up the 717,000 in the long-term plan.
Okay. Right. Any further to add? That's it. Any questions, councillors?
Just through the chair, and I'm sorry, Claire, this just might be because of the way the numbers and the budgets are done, and I'm just trying to understand a couple of things. In terms of the signals, you mentioned that the plan had about 479k against it, but the tender we've got is for 180. So is the balance what's required in works to get the lights in? Is that how I read that?
We had 479 in the through the chair, we had 479,000 in the long-term plan. The quote that we got back came in at $180,000. So we have got a $300,000 left in that LTP budget, which we will be allocating to the traffic calming if it goes ahead.
So through the chair, just to add to that also, is not all of the work, the traffic lights was just for the traffic lights. Some of the preparing work, like the cables under the ground and all of that, is included within the traffic calming component. So it's not like it was under budget. It was just we moved some of that to the other contract that we leaked.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, effectively the answer that Mr. Strongman has given is that the total costs of putting the lights in aren't reflective in the light price that we've got in front of us.
That's correct.
So the total between the light price and the infrastructure to work those lights would be what?
Sorry, there's a hand up the back there. You cannot hear? I'm hard of hearing. Okay, do you want to... Okay. Do you want to come up and sit? That seat's obviously spare. Sorry. Yep. Okay, no, sorry, Councillor Body.
Effectively what I'm asking is the figure for the lights that's in our agenda is not reflective of the total cost of putting those lights in, so what is that?
Through the chair, the total cost for the installing the signals alone is 180,000 plus or minus the duct. Well, it doesn't include the ducting, which is in the tender that we've just put out, and and pavement marking, pavement surfacing.
Well, I feel through you a little bit uneasy making a decision on something when I don't really know what the costs are, because originally we had this 400 something for lights that appears not to be correct. So I don't know whether that can be answered or not.
I presume that was just an estimate first time round, was it?
Correct.
All right, Kevin?
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah,
Yep.
we see this piece of work as an entire project. We've actually combined 4 lots of budgets, as Claire explained, to actually get the work underway. And the way that we split it up was better for the type of contractor that we had, and with traffic management plans and having one contractor able to do all of that work and to control the traffic down there for the period of time that the contract would take. And we see that the actual just physical component of the street lights is just a minor component as such.
Okay, Councillor, sorry, I can't take members' questions during the full formal council meeting. Sorry, sir. Councillor, unless you still can't hear, sorry. No, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, no, unfortunately. Councillor Hickling?
Yes, I'm just a little bit uneasy because I'm not 100% sure of when we talk about minor traffic, whatever you call them, Poepi Road, even where the traffic lights are going to be sited on Norman Smith Street. Just some detail. Have we got any plans or detail that we could just either have on the screen so we can see?
So through the chair, we can answer that question. We're going to have something pop up on screen soon. And this was the presentation that we gave to the elected members a little while ago when we had the questions about lights. Yes.
Refresh our minds, because it's a while since we dealt with some of these issues.
Cool. We'll get that up on the screen. Any questions? Councillor Harvey?
To go along with your queries and various other queries, I just really don't understand 1, 2 and 3 and how they're made up. So it would be really good for us to tell us exactly what 1 means, what part of road, what is that, what is 2, what is that, and what's we understand 3, that's the lights, but the other 2 I'm not sure.
Okay, Kevin, do you mind just going through 1 and 2 again? Sorry.
I think it'll probably aid us when we get the pictures up. But number 1 in particular, that is the overall, above all of those budgets that we mentioned, that we are asking for to complete this project. So 233,000 is the addition to the existing 4 budgets that Claire aligned, said about in that area. So sorry, and the second one, if we get the pictures up, we can talk exactly about the traffic calming in particular.
So you clear on that, Rosie?
We're waiting for the pictures. We are still confused because the lights are less than we thought. So why are we over budget? It's all a bit confusing.
So it is confusing. I think what you need to do is look at part 2 and part 3 as essentially one project. What it is that because part 3, so the traffic signal is limited, it's quite specific, the part which one lights. So we need to get you to approve that, but combined into the one project, what we're showing in its entirety that you want to approve. It's not just putting those lights on the ground, obviously, it's all the other associated works, taking out parts of the major works that Kevin.
Yep. You go.
So he'll talk you through that now, but it's got to be seen as an entire project. If you just sure, so we'll walk through that now.
So through the chair, we've got 3 plans here that basically describe what the project's about. This first plan shows the Poepi Wareki Drive intersection. This part of the work involves extending the island, the central median, south of Poepi Road to provide a greater merge lane. The island to the north of Poepi Road is extended slightly to realign the right turn bay into Poepi Road, and it shows there on the uphill lane, that's the northbound lane, reduced to one lane with a cycle lane, you'll just see those little green squares to the left of the traffic lane. That's putting in a cycle lane. And then what is beyond this point, right to the north of the plan, is where the 80k speed zone changes, and that's where the threshold treatment is, and that's outside of this plan. So is there any questions on that plan?
So through the
Questions
chair,
on Poihipi Road and Waireki Drive, that was presented to the previous workshop?
Yes,
and
so
approved by
these plans are directly out of the presentation that was given to the to council on the 11th of December.
Yep.
So the only,
those,
Sorry, Councillor Hickling?
so those coloured areas, the brown coloured areas, are raised islands.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah.
Majority of that
Not
is
just
already
paint on the road,
No,
but
no,
raised islands.
majority of that is already existing raised islands.
Yeah.
so through the chair also is the shared footpath. That's noted in that drawing as well. That's the widening of that footpath all the way up to the top of the hill.
Right. Any other questions of Poihipi and Waireki Drive? Okay, the next one.
This is to the bottom of the hill. This is the Norman Smith Street Waireki Drive intersection. This particular plan shows the proposed narrowing of Waireki Drive from Norman Smith Street north. So there's a gap in the middle that we've missed. But basically what we're doing is providing a painted flush median in the middle, cycle lane on the left hand side of the northbound lane, so removing the passing lane up the hill on Control Gates Hill, providing for that cycle lane and a widened flush median in the middle of the carriageway.
Cool.
So just focus on that aspect at the moment. We'll get to the signals in the next plan.
Okay,
Jim,
so
could I just ask the question in regards to the removal of the lane and putting a cycle lane? Has any work been done in regards of the effect on traffic flows for doing that?
The intersection was modelled prior to the design being completed.
Understand that. I think we had an interesting letter from a truckie recently about having to stop, particularly if lights are in, and then going up that hill. I think we're creating a major problem, and I'm just wondering why a cycle lane should be the size of one road lane.
Through the chair, the cycle lane is a standard cycle lane width that is not one traffic lane. So normal traffic lane's about 3.5 metres. That cycle lane, I believe, is in the order of 1.5 to 2 metres wide. As I mentioned during the description of it, the flush median in the middle is being widened. So that's where the majority of the that trafficable lane is going.
Through the chair as well, I think part of the what you've got to keep in mind when you're thinking about this is that the environment changes. So it changes at the moment. It's 80 k's an hour, so the truck taking off there is going to be a lot slower than the surrounding environment. Part of the reason of doing this is slowing the traffic going northbound down to 50, which then increases the ability for people to get out of that intersection, because at the moment they're speeding up to get to the passing lane. So that's probably that is the biggest motivation of removing that passing lane, and that then changes that environment for the trucks going up, because it's such a slower environment anyway.
Councillor Williamson, sorry.
That's all right. After.
Through the chair. Just following up on Councillor Boddy's point regarding just a conversation, I'm not too sure, where the merit is regarding the truck stopping at the bottom hill. Like obviously at one time it was a national road anyway, so trucks went over that bridge and through there anyway. With the increased tonnage of trucks, like with say the 70 tonne or the big trucks, I'm led to believe there would be a problem starting and getting up the hill. But would there be any sort of bylaw where, like some towns, you have restrictions of where heavy vehicles can go or traffic flows can go and can't go?
So I can probably answer that, Dennis. So your first question is you're right, it used to be state highway, and so therefore it was the main through town. There are very few other 50k areas that have a passing lane. It definitely isn't normal. You wouldn't have passing lanes in a 50k area. which is what this would be post these works. Your question in terms of the bylaw or whatever, that's something that's going to be taken into account in terms of the transportation strategy. It has been a request which has come through, and Aidan's got that in his thinking as part of that strategy for you to consider. But choice is a great thing. So in terms of this is one of 3 different access points to town. So a truckie, we don't get the volume of trucks through, but a truck who's been servicing town still gets that decision point of, do I go this way or do I go up via Spa Road and out that way?
Councillor Hickling.
Yeah. Dennis, is there any value or is there a reason why we've not put a free turn-in lane when you come down Norman Smith Street, so that you can have a free turn-in lane left up State Highway, because you can only get probably 3 or 4 cars, and then pardon? Next slide. Okay.
Next slide.
Sorry, jump the gun again. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions of that particular aspect of the calming?
This includes lights. Sorry.
Yep. Okay, next slide. Can you turn the microphone on, please, Dennis?
This slide shows the plan with the proposed signalisation of the intersection. In answer to your question, Councillor Hickling, you'll notice there is a left turn lane. It is also a right turn lane as well. So we've got two lanes in there. 2 lanes turning right, and one of them is also the left. There's no dedicated left turn lane. It's a left or right turn, but there is 2. There is 1 dedicated right turn lane and 1 lane that's left or right.
So through the chair, that was done so we can actually get the speed of the vehicles through there, so we can get a number of vehicles through there.
Other points to note is you will notice running east-west just north of Norman Smith Street is the provision of pedestrian crossing with the lights, and there's also one that runs north-south. The north-south one only crosses the right turning lanes of Norman Smith Street. The section, the pedestrians would then cross the left turn slip lane heading into Norman Smith Street under current traffic controls.
You've got 2 lanes coming down Wairaki Drive to go across the control gates bridge.
That's correct.
Yeah. And then they merge obviously into the control gate slide.
Correct.
Do at the moment.
Okay, Councillor Harvey.
So just to confirm that when you say provision for the crossing, there is a crossing.
Those are the plans. There is a crossing that crosses Wairaki Drive, and there's a pedestrian cycle crossing that crosses Norman Smith Street for that section that's doing the right turn manoeuvre into Wairaki Drive.
So they are part of the whole system.
That's part of the plan.
Thank you.
Yeah, that they will be part of the light phasing.
Yep.
Coys Road, that access which has been used a lot, therefore the people are floating down the river and such, the lights provide a phasing opportunity for them to get in and out safely.
Okay. All right. Any other? Councillor Hickling. No.
That'll be a free turn around through there? Correct. Yep. Okay.
Right. Okay. Any other questions
Yeah,
of that?
a couple. This has been some time.
Jollins.
Thank you, Your Worship. This has been some time since we got the traffic experts' views. Can you just please refresh our memory what this is going to do to queues and travel time across the bridge? Can you refresh our memories, please?
The traffic the signalisation of the intersection coupled with the traffic calming on Wairakei Drive is designed to improve traffic flow from Norman Smith Street and Wairakei Drive heading south up into Tongariro Street. If I take you right back to the very first workshop I held with Council, I think it was back in 2016, it was about the queue length and the queue time on Norman Smith Street. We have identified that it will assist that. It's not going to solve it. It will assist it. We have also identified that it will assist, it will be beneficial for both pedestrians and cyclists for crossing Wairakei Drive and Norman Smith Street.
Sorry, through the chair as well, one thing that is clearly shown in the model is there will be stacking up just below, around the bridge further up to town, because it's still a single lane. That's a second bridge option solution.
Okay, Councillor Williamson.
Oh, so yeah, we should be just with the traffic going north over the bridge. Obviously, unless there's a build-up of traffic stopping at the lights when you go up the hill, there shouldn't be any more or less congestion of traffic coming out of town. Potentially, I don't know whether you can answer that or whether it's. I know I do appreciate that. I think well I do anyway. I appreciate obviously volumes of traffic are what they are, you know. But so there's not doesn't necessarily going to be a cure. But to me, I think the elephant in the room is that there's been the traffic light roundabout debate, with notwithstanding petitions, etc. To me. Because I've never had an accident, I don't wear a seatbelt. Well, that sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? Because you get used to it after a while. And I'm picking that the traffic light debate. I think obviously, if they're really smart and create safety not just for kids crossing roads, but for mobility scooters and everybody accessing across that road, to me that's the wisest move.
Okay. Councillor Park.
Yeah, I'm just wondering about the figures, and sorry, not a financial whiz, is that, so across the 4 budget lines there's 717,000, but then when you look at the tender for contract and the provision of, is that on top of the 180 for the lights?
Through the chair, the 670,000 is the tender price that we received for the traffic calming and the other projects that we've just discussed, and that's on top of the 180.
So that's 849.70.
And we've already spent $100,000.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Harvey.
Sorry, I know that we did talk last time, I think, Claire, about there being a priority lane if there wasn't much, like at quiet times and there's not much build up at Norman Smith. Is the main priority going up Wairakei Drive, or are the lights going to be on all the time?
That's correct. There'll be what they call a resting green phase. So if there's nobody sitting at Norman Smith, Wairakei Drive will have the
right of way
flow.
And people turning up to Norman Smith, that'll activate a turn.
Yeah,
correct.
Right. Technology. Councillor Body.
Could I ask a further question? Cars travelling north that want to turn into Norman Smith Street, if there's 4 or 5 cars are heading them wanting to go up the hill, the Norman Smith Street traffic can't turn. So therefore you add to another problem by having lights.
Through the chair, that has been modelled, and there is a provision for a what they call a sensor loop prior to the bridge. So when the queue gets back to the bridge, it will then trigger the cycle phase.
Is that modelled by these gentlemen here, this one here, Northern Outlet Investigation?
Correct.
Without being disrespectful, I think that's been looked at by a number of people, and there's been some disputes over its accuracy.
There's a caution, councillors, in that we are talking about professional opinion here. But the other thing I just lastly want to make out is just for your information that the money that we've already spent on this project, if you don't go ahead with the project, it will become operationalised. If you do go ahead with it, then it's what we call capitalised, so it goes under the project. So the cost of not doing anything, you need to take that into account in your consideration, because up until date it has been a project that you've been considering.
Councillor Hickling?
Yeah, I'm in favour of completing this project, and one of the reasons is that the modified situation at the moment, people said it wouldn't make any difference, like the closing of Redoubt Street and you know, certain little tweaks that we did, and I've got to confess, I think it's made a huge difference personally. And so, whilst I know there's a lot of concern about traffic lights, and I've got some mixed feelings too, because it is working quite well at the moment. But I come back to the safety issue of pedestrians, and certainly people coming out of Norman Smith Street onto that particular Wairaki Drive. I've seen some real dubious moves around that intersection, and so for me, I think I'd like to give this the opportunity to see just how it will work, and from looking at the plans, I'm quite comfortable with making the decision to continue with this project to its conclusion.
Thank you, Councillor Hickling. Councillor Jollins.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just through the chair, I would like to speak against it, just to share some of my thoughts. I agree very much with Councillor Hickling that a lot of the small tweaks that were put in place some time ago have changed the situation there. And if you listen to the anecdotal feedback from the communities of Acacia Bay, Nukaho and Kinloch, those people have certainly seen a difference. And when you note a petition that's before us as well for the traffic lights, I do wonder if it is time to maybe look at reassessing this particular one. We've got a transport strategy that we need to look at. I think we need to look at an overall solution. I'm not comfortable with making one small amend without looking at how it's going to impact on everyone else. The second point I want to make is, as a council and in the past couple of months and coming up in this paper, this agenda further, we've got lots of cost escalations coming our way for a variety of reasons. And any rational person in any normal household, when faced with cost escalations coming many different ways, says, what are our priorities? I don't see trial lights here at the moment as a priority. What I do see as a priority is putting into effect some traffic calming measures to support our speed limit changes. And our biggest and most dangerous, one of our most dangerous intersections in this town is the Poihipi Road, Wairaki. We should be looking at doing that, but I think we're focusing on the wrong stuff with the lights here. So I would like to talk against this. Let's do some traffic calming and let's fix up Poihipi, but I think we should put a hold on the lights at this stage. And for that reason, I would be voting against this. And I urge you to think about that and the costs.
Chairman?
Councillor Boddy?
Could I just follow that up and support Councillor, this time it'll be Councillor Jollins. I think it was about 3 months ago we brought this issue up from comments that had been made, and I think Councillor Rankin mentioned people from probably up Marpa Road. The whole thing has changed since we've taken those changes, and I look at this document here, it even recommends the downhill being 50k, and it's a shame that that wasn't done when we did those other alterations. So I'm also cognizant that there's 233 over budget. We've got 450 coming up later. That's not budgeted for. I believe we leave it as it is. Change the speed down the hill and move on. The priority to me is the second bridge as part of our transport strategy, that we should be talking about that, not other issues to do with transport.
Councillor Harvey.
Okay, so my concern is, from my colleagues, where is the concern about safety here? Now, I've also thought long and hard about all of these issues, but I come down that road every day and go into town and watch school kids trying to cross the road by Control Gates Bridge and all over the place. If you had any concern about safety whatsoever, this would be it, and this is our opportunity to put that in place. So I think we have a moral duty to actually do this and make sure that our elderly, our people on mobility scooters, our cyclists get across that road safely and into town.
Through the chair.
Okay.
Look,
anyone else? Just a moment, please. Councillor Williamson.
Yeah, through the chair. I just really endorse Councillor Harvey and Councillor Hickling's comments. I mean, this is nothing new. Obviously, I do get the fact, you know, that we do have we have to prioritise things, but whether the council sits on our thumbs and decides, you know, we're going to compromise the safety of our community, and also it's almost not so much insulting, but to slight on the hard work all our staff do in the background. To, you know, it's not just something that's thought about overnight. Yes. There was a consultation process. There was a concern in the community that something had to be done there, and obviously, even through the original consultation, it wasn't all one-way traffic. Excuse the pun. There was support for traffic lights as well as roundabouts. So, very much. So, and I will support the recommendation.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, through the chair, I just need to make a couple of comments in regards to my fellow councillors. This is no slur on the staff's ability. They have done an awesome job. All I'm saying is time has moved on. People have been using some of those changes. And look, safety is a top priority of all of us. The most dangerous part of that road is actually the Poihapi intersection. That's where those accidents are happening on a regular basis. Where are the stats on on incidences of crossing that road? I use it too every day, Councillor Harvey. There are children everywhere crossing, but that's about an education process as well, and I have not seen any incidences.
Do you want to have one?
Okay, all right. Anyone else? Is anyone else want to talk for or against? Or I'll get the. There's a suggested recommendation there. Obviously, 1, 2, and 3. Given there's no changes to those recommendations, do I have a mover for the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Harvey, seconded by Councillor Hickling. Would you like to speak? Would anyone like to speak again against it? You've made your words quite. What I will add in supporting this recommendation, 38 years ago, I arrived in Taupo in the late Clem Curry. It was one of the subjects on the council then. So finally, we're doing something about this 38 years later. Now, you know, it's obviously we have to have trust and faith in our experts for that expert advice, and we are doing something. So, and safety is paramount, as Councillor Harvey and Councillor Williamson have said. So I'll move the recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against?
No. Your Worship, could I call for a division, please?
Sure. So hands up for the recommendation?
The names are to be recorded.
Do you want the ones for or against recorded?
Both.
Yeah. Okay. And against?
I'm asking for a division, which means the names must be recorded.
Certainly. Yep. Against is Councillor John Boddy and Councillor Roseanne Jollins. Okay. The recommendation is passed. Thank you. Right, 5.3. Financial and rating analysis in Turangi. Mr. Brian Fox. Good afternoon, Brian.
Good afternoon, Your Worship. I'll take the item as read. I think you all understand the background to this item. Unfortunately, the Chair of Audit and Risk isn't available to answer any questions directly, but I'll do my best if you do have any.
Cool. Okay, thank you, Brian. All right, pretty clear there. Sorry, Councillor Rankin.
Through the Chair, does this process include the changes that the Turangi Group asked for in the analysis that they wanted done? Because they did change the base.
So officers haven't been directly involved between the discussions between Mr. Byatt and PwC. Mr. Byatt was aware of those matters, and matters did change within the original terms of reference from memory. So, but really it's, I can't answer that directly, to be quite honest.
My concern is that if we didn't take all of that into consideration, we're going to get to the end of this process and they're going to say, you didn't do what we asked you to do, and you're not telling us the truth and you're hiding things. I want it to be absolutely 1000% transparent, and we need to be accountable.
So through the Chair, I think, and Mr. Byatt and I think Mr. Cousins have had some conversations, and in fact we did offer Mr. Cousins to come and speak to you during the public forum of today, because obviously he will have seen the items. I think there are, from my understanding, there are some elements which were asked for in that correspondence, in that email, which haven't been included through here, partly because it's either impossible to obtain that information, or the value of that information will be so limited because you're not comparing apples with oranges or apples with apples. So for example, trying to compare the activities of Taupo District Council versus other like councils, or in fact particularly at a ward level, is practically impossible because you get so much down to so much detail about how we all rate, how we do our business so differently. So it comes down to the relevance of such an assessment, I guess, and the ability of whatever you get to, is it gonna be of any relevance? So I'd probably say to you that whatever we do through the terms of reference, it's only as good as the engagement that we make. PricewaterhouseCoopers have said to us that they've done this sort of work previously at other councils, so it's not unusual for them, and they're fully aware of the sentiment behind the questions that we were asked at the public meeting. So they know the context, they know what questions have been asked by the community and what we're wanting to have asked, as is Mr. Byatt, who provides that independence over the top to give you confidence that your independent expert has signed off on this as a good assessment to answer off those questions.
Mr. Fox, I'm going to ask the question slightly differently, but it's the same point that my fellow councillor is raising, because it's very important that what the outputs of this, if we agree to this expenditure, will satisfy the objective that we have set this out to do. Have that Turangi residents group, have they seen the terms of reference that we're proposing for PricewaterhouseCoopers, and are they happy overall, acknowledging Mr. Green's comments?
So I'm not aware what they have or have not seen in terms of any discussion Mr. Byatt may or may not have had.
I mean,
I can't answer that directly.
I mean, I'm reluctant to, I'll talk to the Turangi councillors here, but I'm reluctant to approve expenditure until I know that we have got the right terms of reference and the group is happy.
That might be the operative word, as well as they can be. Councillor Kingy.
Oh, thank you, Worship. Yeah, I suppose my position is very similar. As you well know, I've acted in a liaison capacity with the Turangi Action Group. They haven't had a meeting since that email was sent, so I'm unaware of their views. So I suppose I will, I do acknowledge what's being said, which is, let's just get it right and make sure we're on the same page, so that we are able to move forward from this. And if that means we need to table this and hold it off until such time that the group can actually respond or something along those lines, then I'd be comfortable with that.
Councillor Park.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Fox. I'm just, while I understand the concerns of the action group, I'm just a little bit disturbed about the fact we've got a number of ratepayers groups and action groups around the district, and if we go ahead and set up the terms of reference with a residential group as opposed to an elected body like the TTCB, who are in place to look after the Turangi Tongariro ward, are we setting a precedence? Like I'm just a bit, I understand the action group's frustrations, and they've got a vehicle through the community board to come to council, and I'm quite supportive of this piece of work happening because it's been going on for too long, but where do we stop that the terms of reference are decided upon by a group of ratepayers as opposed to an elected body of representatives?
So,
Brian,
through the chair, I guess really, Anna, that you've basically, in appointing Anthony to make that decision in terms of finalising the terms of reference, you've made that call. So you've chosen your chair of your independent chair of your Audit and Risk Committee to negotiate that process with PwC, the supplier, and to finalise those terms of reference on your behalf. So that, I think that's the answer. So, yep. So as to creating a precedent, well, some of you have got longer memories about council and the borough than I have, so, but I'm not aware of the situation occurring in the past, and I'll defer to Gareth and anyone else who may be more aware of it than me.
Through the chair, I don't see this as setting a precedent. I just see this as part of building a relationship and some trust. So I am keen to get this moved on, and we did signal to the Turangi community that we would do this. So I was just trying to seek some assurances that, as my fellow councillor Kingy said, we're all on the same page. So if Mr. Byatt is happy with the terms of reference and we have appointed him as the independent, then I guess it would be holding on us to move this process through and approve it.
Mr. Chair?
Yes. Sorry,
just on that point, I think maybe Councillor Rankin may have touched on it. While it may be improved by Mr. Byatt, has he talked it through with the Turangi group? Because they might have a slightly different perspective, and so I think that Councillor Kingy may be leaning towards that. So I would support this, but I believe we need to ascertain whether that's been gone through with the Turangi group.
So I can't answer that, but I don't believe that was a term of engagement from Mr. Byatt. When you asked for him to undertake this body of work on your behalf, did you require him to do that?
I know Mr. Byatt has read the email correspondence that we've shared with him from Mr. Cousins, so he's aware of the issues. But yes, I don't believe that a conversation, and Councillor King, you sit on that group, I don't believe there's been a conversation as far as I'm aware. But he has been aware of the email correspondence and aware of the discussions at the public meeting.
Okay, Councillor Williamson.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Yeah, I understand where Councillor Park's coming from. I understand that is, careful, we don't set a precedent. On the other hand, I support Councillor Johns. We need to move this forward to come to some conclusion, for the good of the district. Thank you.
Just very quickly, is Councillor King and Councillor Stewart happy to have it progress?
Sorry.
Yes, Councillor
Through
Stewart.
you, Worship the Chair. I'm aware that Anthony has been has had all the emails that have come between council and the group, and I know that from council's point of view, he was given a brief on what was expected to be the outcome of this. Would that be correct? So with those things in place, I'm happy for this to go ahead.
Okay. All right. Okay. Is a suggested recommendation there? The council approves unbudgeted expenditure of 16.5k excluding GST for the financial and rating analysis of Turangi project. Do I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Park, seconded by Councillor Rankin. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Right, 5.4. Thank you, Mr. Fox. Wairora House options. Gareth.
Good afternoon, Your Worship. So, Council is seeking the approval of unbudgeted expenditure of $450,000 to demolish Wairora House. These are estimate costs. We have built in a contingency of $100,000 for the soil removal. To date, we don't know whether it's going to be 20 tonnes or if it's going to exceed the 400 tonnes that we've budgeted for. So I'd just like to bring your attention to that. That is definitely an estimate cost. And I'll take the rest of the paper as read. And any questions?
Okay, thanks, Gareth. Councillor Park.
Yeah, hi, I've got one for Gareth and one for Mr. Menhennett probably. Gareth, with the unbudgeted money that's being asked for, and again, we come back to a safety issue obviously, but when this was workshopped, we were sort of told that, you know, with the million that was initially given, that some of it would be covered there, but you might need a bit extra. I mean, this is quite a bit extra over that.
So we initially discussed $580,000. We had on the initial budget of $1 million, we had $330,000 in excess. So some of the costings which we added to this paper was $100,000 to deal with services such as the water, electricity, which I was using in the previous budget, so I never brought it up to the demolition costs. Just to give you guys an idea, when we started uncovering the power through the building, it actually turned into a bit of a hornet's nest, and it turned out that 4 buildings behind Warrior House were all directly fed from Warrior House itself. We thought it was from a substation that was just next to them. So that added to the costs. The water's been just as complicated, and including in these costs as well is, which I really think is really important, is the independent review, and that comes into when we start removing the soil. If we don't have an independent review, then any organisation can say, oh well, we had to remove 400 or 500 tonnes. We get the independent review, which is going to be doing all the air monitoring to make sure that everything is safe on site, as well as testing of the soils, and we get an accurate line on what should the cost be.
Thank you. And just my second question with Mr. Menhennett, that $1 million amount was basically from the TL fund. With this unbudgeted expenditure, is it from the same place, or has the year-to-date sort of overall budget got a good surplus where, I know budgets aren't targets, but is there surplus to cover this at this point, or how were we looking at it?
Through the chair, the way we're looking at it is that the initial part of work was from an emergency perspective, and that's why we proposed that it be funded from the TL fund. Excuse me. At this particular stage, about 670,000 has been spent on that particular part of it. We're now into a demolition remediation process, so we're outside that, what we define as emergency works, and that's why we will be funding the rest of it through rates. So that's why we, at 1.45 million, the difference between what has been spent to date and the 1.45 will be a rateable amount rather than a TL fund.
And as year to date, there is are we running at surplus across the organisation?
I'll be talking about that in the financials. This has been an unprecedented year as far as the approval of unbudgeted expenditure. If we look at what we budgeted and what we're rating for, there's a significant difference between what we're spending this financial year, and you've already just approved in 2 previous papers today more unbudgeted expenditure. This makes it 3 for the day, let alone how many others have occurred so far this financial year. So no, we're not running in any surplus from a rating perspective. We're running an overdraft this year.
Councillor Harvey.
Just a quick question, Gareth. As far as the demolition goes, is it going to be restored to a piece of nice ground like the Lake Terrace building? How are we leaving it? Because obviously there's various levels. Is it going to be fantastic?
So through the chair, we're going to level the ground out, and we're going to give another green space like we did at Lake Terrace.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. In the paper it states 3.9 million or 600,000. Wasn't it 3.9 for the rebuild?
That is correct.
Okay, so could I then ask Mr. Menhennett if we spent 670,000 from the TEL fund amount of the million? Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
So that would leave 330,000. So we're going to have another 450,000. That's 800,000. No? How does it work?
As I just explained, we're talking about 1.45 million for the remedial work which had to be done no matter what, and the demolition and tidying up of the site. After that, you will be making a decision as to what you want to happen in the future. So at this particular stage, we're only talking 1.45 million. I know in those presentations there was 3.9 million. That 3.9 million included about 600,000 for the demolition of the building and about 3.3 for reconstruction. A decision has not been made at this stage as to what actually happens after the demolition of the building. So at this stage, from a financial perspective, we are talking 1.45 million.
Don't know if I follow that.
All right, Councillor Park.
Yes, thank you. Alan, just in regards to, okay, so the 670 out of the TAL fund because of the emergency situation. I mean, the demolition of this building is an emergency situation. Like if a match got set to it or anything at all, we're going to be in a far worse space, health and safety-wise, than we are. So immediate removal of the building isn't deemed to be a part of that emergency situation.
We're treating, through the chair, we're treating this building the same as we are for Lake Terrace, and the same reasons, probably not to this extent, existed with that building, and that was treated just as a operational cost of council.
All right.
I can't work it out. We've got 330 left out of the million.
Okay. Any no one wants to spend it, that's for sure. Yeah. All right, there's a suggested recommendation there that we demolish this building. Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Hickling, seconded by Councillor Rankin. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thanks, Gareth. Right, 5.5, Spark request for infrastructure on the Great Lakes Centre. That's you too, is it, Gareth?
So I didn't have to move very far for this one.
Yeah.
So Spark have requested to renew some infrastructure onto the Great Lakes Centre. They have sent some concept plans which we've attached to your reports. It is our recommendation that we allow them to do this. It's aesthetically as pleasing as it could be, and they will paint it in the same colour as the building. Another demand that we made on them was to build it in such a way that they could have shared services, so we don't get separate requests from other telecommunication companies and then have to have multiple aerials on the building. So they have done that into their infrastructure. They built it in.
If I can just add, the Mayor and myself and some others had a meeting with Spark, and it was as a result of the other cell tower at the lakefront. I mean, this was one of the ones that was discussed as part of that as well. When we asked Spark what other cell towers they had planned, they spoke about this one and a couple of others, which some of you will be aware of because we're working through that with other committees. This one, the other alternative, is for a tower similar to what we've got on Lake Terrace, slightly smaller, but similar to that on Tongaro Street. So as you come into town on the lamppost, which they can do as of right. So that's where we had the discussion about, is this actually a better outcome visually than what it is having something like that, which they can do without our permission.
Councillor Park.
Can part of the negotiation be that the one on Rainbow Drive be relocated?
So we've as I say, we did meet with, the answer is no. We did meet with Spark, and the mayor provided it's a no that it won't be part of this negotiation. So we did meet with Spark, and the mayor subsequently sent a letter to them asking for them to consider relocation, and if that's not possible, then what else they can do to minimise the impact of that tower on Lake Terrace. We haven't received a formal response of that yet, but we know that they are currently investigating those different options.
All right. Councillor Jollins.
Oh, just a quick question, because it's on the reserve, isn't it? So is there anything else we need to approve or give support? No? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, so a recommendation there. Let me let Spark do this. So do I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Rankin, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Kingy. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. 5.6, applications for Class 4 gambling venues. Scott. Good afternoon, Scott.
Good afternoon. You're glad I'm not coming asking you for money today? Chance to make money, I guess, out of gaming machines. I discovered in the weekend at Sky City that's not the best way to make money. So I've got two applications, one for Turangi, the Takano Turangi RSA, and one for what's called the Grandeur Thermal Spa Resort, which is the previous spa hotel. We've got a gaming policy that came into force in 2017, which allows officers to make a decision in terms of applications that come in that fit within that policy. Neither of the applications fit within the policy, so hence the reason of presenting it to council today. Just to quickly talk through the two, so Takano Turangi RSA already have an existing 9 machines, which is their limit under the policy. They've purchased 5 machines from the Taupo RSA. They purchased them before they spoke to us, and so they're basically sitting there on hold until they get a decision from council. So that would take their total number of machines up to 14. My recommendation is that we decline that application, basically because the main intent of the policy is to limit gaming machines, not to continue the expansion of them. We have had an overall reduction in the machines in Turangi with the Tongariro Charter Club closing down, so they had the ability to have 18 gaming machines there. So overall the number of machines in Turangi have dropped, but just taking that to the side and thinking about the policy and its own merits, this is about our options to continually have a sinking lid policy on these gaming machines. The reason obviously is the harm that's caused by problem gambling. The second part of the application is the Grandeur Thermal Spa Resort. So we'll all be aware that Spa Hotel, as it was back in the day, had gaming machines. Those gaming machines have been removed for some time, so they've lost any existing use rights that they had or would have had. They're well outside the town centre, which is what the policy intent of the policy is, to have these machines in the town centre, and that's one of the other matters that we consider in terms of controlling harm when it comes to gambling. So did a little bit of research of why we have that policy, and that's to do with generally these gaming machines go into lower socioeconomic areas, and by putting them into town centre means that the vendors of these machines can't target parts of the community. They can't isolate them and try and find areas to take advantage of that. So that's why there's a clear indication of the policy around that, and that's the reason why I've also recommended that we decline that application.
Very good. So that's your recommendation, Scott, but we have delegated authority to make the decision here, so we can change that?
Yes, ultimately your decision. It's outside the policy. That's the purpose of the decision today.
Right. What's the feeling, councillors?
Well, just to clarify, we have a policy, but the way I read the policy, the Spa Road one contravenes the policy because of the location of the hotel. But just to clarify, our policy isn't a sinking lid policy. It's a capped policy, is it not? Okay.
Yeah, so the previous policy we had a higher number of gaming machines allowed, and this policy we reduced that down. And the intent kind of sits behind the policy that over time that will continue to reduce. So as places close or leave, there's not the ability for them to continue to operate or to expand existing operations. New operations can come in. So to give you an example, somebody could open up in Turangi a new gaming menu
in the CBD.
Of up to 9 machines in the CBD. So.
But just to clarify, in the instance of the gaming machine facilities at the RSA in Turangi, that's more about, they are an existing facility, but it's more about them not being in the CBD, is that correct, or town centre?
Not so much, because they're an existing venue. So I guess in terms of, sorry Gareth, I guess in terms of the two applications, the Spa Resort one's pretty clear cut as far as I'm concerned. It's well outside the town centre. It's a new venue, shouldn't be located there. Turangi, there's probably an argument there either side.
Councillor
So
Stewart?
as I understand it, Scott, the reason that Turangi doesn't comply though is it's going more than 9, right, which is
That's
the maximum cap.
Yep.
So it's
Yep.
not so much about the town centre than the number.
Yeah, that's right.
So, yeah, two different things.
Yep.
Councillor Stewart?
I was on the committee that looked at this, and my feeling was always for a sinking lid. But looking at the RSA in Turangi, they've got 9 machines. If they have a further 5, and there's nowhere else that people are going to go and use the machines in Turangi at this present point in time, they've already got 9. So why do they need another 5? The members that go there, I'm sure there's not a queue to use these machines. So I think that 9 is, there's no need for another 5. Yeah, if you've got another 5, you're just trying to encourage more people to gamble and get more revenue from those machines. And that just doesn't sit well with me, I'm afraid.
Councillor Kingy?
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, look, I've got mixed views on this. Reading the paper, the first sort of paragraph talks about the viability of the RSA. Now, we know nationally that RSAs are a declining thing. I suppose I think about that because if we lose our RSA back home, there really isn't anything for that group of people who occupy that facility. And I think about social isolation, and I think about the effects of being isolated. So I know there's a number of active groups in the Taupo area that because of the population. So when I think about home, I think, it is a little bit different now. I'm not a gambler myself. I don't understand them. I wouldn't know the first thing to do about it. But when I read that, I do see we do have the ability to perhaps help them sustain themselves for a bit longer. Yep, I totally acknowledge what Maggie's talking about, the other sides of gambling. On that basis, I guess my view is that I'd speak in supporting the application, which I guess is contrary to your recommendation, Scott, but that's just my feelings on the matter.
Just clarification.
Did you have a point of clarification?
I did.
To King?
Yes, I just felt that my understanding was that our RSA isn't actually, they have karaoke nights, they have darts nights that on a regular basis. I know the older people like me go there I don't go, but I know they do like me, go there on a Friday and have a meal and play cards and things. I drove past there on the weekend and there were cars galore in the car park. So I don't quite see that our RSA is on a decline. That's my perception.
Councillor Harvey? Sorry.
All I would say is there a room for some sort of movement here rather than another 5? Do they have another 2? Do they have 1?
Yeah, actually, Scott, we'll answer that question in a minute. Do you get access to the balance sheets of these organisations when they put an application in?
Yeah, just a couple of points, I guess. One that Hadley just very handily brought up from the DIA website. It talks about, and it covers off a couple of points about revenue from these machines. So the policy said the venue can only withhold a certain amount of payment, which is capped, and they're not supposed to actually generate profit from these machines. The capping of the money is about recovering their cost of having the machines. So I guess the rest of the money is the stuff that goes back into those community grants and bits and pieces. So while the RSA have made a point in the application, this is about not necessarily profit. They're talking about the viability for the club, and that may not just be about the money they get from the machines. It's about people who visit, I guess. But just to be clear, this isn't about making more profit from gaming machines. On the other
DIA policy, is it?
Yes, that's from...
That's under the legislation.
Legislation, yeah, cool.
So the legislation sets a cap. And so essentially it's just to return the cost of operating the machines by having the extra machines, like Scott said, it may bring more people through the doors who have meals, who buy drinks. That's where they may generate it, but they won't generate any extra profit of having an extra 5 machines.
Of the actual
because
machines.
They just simply can't.
Yeah.
My understanding is it goes back to the society that operates the machines. So if you think of the Lion Foundation operate a range of machines, they then collect it, and I don't know if legislation has changed yet, but I believe it was going to change, that it was going to look at local areas, but previously it's just been nationwide, so they've just
Touring is the Polaris, isn't it? Polaris Trust? Yeah.
Through you, Your Worship.
Councillor Harvey, sorry, just give Councillor Harvey a crack.
Yep.
Sorry, no, I'm fine. You're right. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Okay,
I just have a question because the RSA have bought 5 machines. So how does then they're owned by the RSA, so they're still covered under that. So the money from those machines still has to go back to a collective?
There'll be a society that operates those machines.
Yeah. There's 2 different models of ownership, and there's some of them are owned by the trust or whatever, and some of them are actually Cosy Club own their own.
Yep, and they're allowed to use that funding within the club for club expenditure, but it's quite distinct.
Yeah.
Well, you would,
Okay.
Well,
All right. Councillor Rankin. Sorry.
Through the chair.
Councillor Williamson.
I sort of chaired that committee that for the for Class 4 gambling through the whole process, and I did have a bit of a dilemma myself. I sort of tend to sympathise with Councillor Rankin, obviously with obviously the social downside, the harm that could be done. And we saw a lot of groups submit to the policy, and there's whether it's just everybody takes the responsibility for their own actions. I know that's easy, it's a hard call, because obviously people, situations, domestically and socially, it's always temptation. But my question was whether it's actually in your relevance, obviously with the RSA closing here, whether the touring RSA approached, you may not even know that, approached Taupo RSA or the RSA here approached them about, because obviously they wanted to get rid of their machines. How was it? Who took the initiative there?
Through the chair, I'm not familiar with what occurred.
Councillor Body.
Just to help me, under background, it's mentioned, if I could read it, an extension of machines from 11 to 16, but now we're hearing it's 9 plus 5 makes 14. What are we? We're not looking at 5 on top of the 11.
Yeah, sorry, just point of I was waiting for a bit of a moment of silence. So yeah, it's 9 machines at the Spa Resort. So that's a new gaming venue, 9 resorts.
Yeah.
The RSA currently has 11 machines, and we're asking for a decision on the additional 5 machines.
So it would go from 11, it'll go to 16.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right, someone's going to stick their neck out here and move the move the recommendation or move an alternative or whatever.
Okay,
Councillor Jollins.
I will move the recommendations that are put forward to us in the paper that we decline both applications for the RSA and the Spa Hotel.
Okay, been moved by Councillor Jollins. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Stewart. All those in favour, would anyone like to speak against it?
Could I give notice of an amendment, which if this becomes a substantive? Because what I would like to see, and I take Councillor Rankin's point of view, that the machines down at Turingi go ahead, but the Spa doesn't.
Yeah, okay. Does anyone want to speak against the original recommendation that was moved and seconded? Okay.
Said before, is there some room to change that 5 machines to something else?
I think, Scotty, can we do that?
Sorry, I missed that.
So can you say the RSA's asked for another 5 machines? So can you make that 2 machines?
You can make any decision you want. I guess my recommendation's based on what the policy is. So, yep.
Yeah. But we could make that decision. Okay.
Yeah.
So I deal with the amendment now. No. The original. Okay, loss. Yeah. Okay. All right. So it's been moved by Councillor Jollins, seconded by Councillor Stewart, as in 1 and 2, up there. Two. So 2 recommendations. Okay. What would the mover like to do? You happy with moving 1 and 2? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so it's been moved by Councillor Jollins, seconded by Councillor Stewart, 1 and 2. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Hey, John, you might get an amendment through here. This will be a world first. Okay, I think, so could I have a show of hands for the recommendation of those in favour? Four, and 1, 2, and those against, sorry. 4. Are you there? Are you there? Come on, yeah. No, I'd stick with the original recommendation. So it's declined. Decline. Okay. Motion passes. Yep. Yeah. I would like to see it. All right. Okay. 5.7 AOG electricity tender for TDC, and I think this is where Councillor Johnson signalled a conflict. So we have Mr. Neil Ward.
Yeah, good afternoon, Your Worship and Councillors. I'll take the item as read. As you're hopefully aware, we tender our electricity contract every 3 years, and MB runs that tender process for us. So they have gone through their procurement process, made their recommendations, and that's basically tabled in the report.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions and queries?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Ward. You're going to about to educate me because there's 2 words in the report I don't understand. What's a tranches? TRANCHES. And what is a non TOU only?
That's all I could think of.
I spent days on the internet trying to find out. I thought
the first one was a deliberate error to see if you're still awake. So well done.
And what's it supposed to read?
It's a tranche. Tranche is the terminology. So a tranche is, how do I explain that? Surely you found that in the dictionary.
No, and that was a concise Oxford.
Yeah, a tranche is a, how do I describe it? We do it all the time in the financial markets when we issue debt as a tranche of debt. It's a thing. There you go.
I like dinosaur better.
There's the dictionary definition. Sounds like a hospital pass.
Well, before.
Thank you, Tina. That's a very good description. It's a very good description.
The 16th, but not defined. So Neil, what is the TOU? What's a tail?
TOU is time of use. So in terms of the electricity markets, there's 2 forms of provision of electricity. One's called time of use, so it's measured every 30 minutes, and then there's non-time of use after that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, Maggie, or queries? Councillor Stewart.
This is for a 3-year contract?
Correct.
Right. So our new building won't be built by this time, within 3
That's entirely
years.
up to you, I guess.
So if it was done within this time and we have solar in there, I'd like to make sure that this company is going to give us a decent look-in on what they would buy our excess solar for.
So the MB negotiates the terms and conditions of the contract. In fact, with all of the electricity providers in New Zealand, we would not be able to vary the terms of that.
Okay. All right, so Meridian, they operate. locally, do they?
The majority of Meridian supplies from the South Island, yeah.
Right. Councillors comfortable with that? Yep. All right. So, I have a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Body, seconded by Councillor Stewart. All those in favour, please say aye. It's against. Carried. Thanks, Neil. Yeah, you are the next one too? 5.8 Treasury Management
Me again.
Policy Amendment.
Yeah, so this is a very technical item. Apologies for that, but it's it does involve a change to our treasury management policy and a measurement methodology of how we basically value the swaps. You'll recall, and you'll see it later in the CE report, that we have a breach of policy around our counterparty exposure. This item will actually fix or remedy that, and really it just comes down to the present method, which is the OEM method, and I won't get into detail on that, is a very conservative method for measuring your counterparty exposure. Given that we have a system that can measure the value of our swaps on a daily basis, it's a web-based product used in the markets, we are able to be a lot more accurate with our exposure, and the recommendation from PwC, our Treasury advisors, is that we move to the, if you like, the more modern, accurate FPCE method, which measures your exposure in a more accurate way. And you'll see on the second page, 116, that little chart there, you'll see there's a significant difference between the valuation methodologies. So our advisors have recommended that given that we are able to measure our exposure on a daily basis, that we move to a more suitable measurement methodology. Sorry about this item, it's rather tedious.
Councillor Body?
Thank you, Mr. Ward, for that. I checked the information that you've got in the document, in the agenda. Does that mean the wording on page 23 of the management plan, interest rate risk manager, ED swaps, will that change its wording, or will it remain the same?
Sorry, that's the wording in the Treasury Management Policy, was it? Yes, that is correct. The wording in the Treasury Management Policy will be updated with this. That's what I've suggested in the item.
And this makes the whole procedure easier?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, no, sorry. What it does is it more accurately measures your counterparty credit risk, and what that means is, so currently we're breaching that measure.
The ANZ 20.3.
So under the new measurement methodology, you will no longer be in breach of policy.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Oh,
thanks,
just
Sam.
one quick question from me, because this stuff really interests me, Mr. Ward. Look, it looks like the primary advantage, as you say, is to be a more accurate and true reflection of our credit risk. Can you just explain for me one of the other advantages which enables more competitive pricing of interest rate risk management instruments? What are we talking about here in relates to the credit risk, please?
Yeah, no, good question, Councillor. So currently, as Councillor Body pointed out, we are breaching our counterparty exposure with ANZ. They are currently one of the most competitive counterparties in the market. So what it means is that I can no longer ask them for pricing. So it means effectively we take a competitive competitor out of the market. Competitive. Yeah, you know what I mean.
In that case, Your Worship, I'm more than happy to pass that rather long motion.
Okay, we moved it, seconded by Councillor Body.
Now I've understood those two words, I'm more than happy to.
Okay, lovely. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, carried. 5.9, receipt of draft statements of intent. Jessica. How are you, Jess? Just to turn your speaker on. That's right.
Go. So, fairly mechanical item to receive the draft SOIs, and I'll take the paper as read.
Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Jess.
Probably through the chair, if I can, just want to point out probably one significant change, and that's to the Waikato Local Authority Shared Services, so the WLAS. We are recommending quite a significant change to the terms and the way that that board is made up. You'll be aware that at the moment it's made up with with each CE in the Waikato region being part of the board. What we're proposing there is to have a couple of independent directors and to reduce it down to I think it's 4 CEs representing the 4 geographical locations of the Waikato. At this point I've been nominated as to be one of those for my sins, but the point of that is essentially to try and make that board a little bit more commercial in nature, to come up with proposals that then the councils who are members of that party to that grouping can decide whether or not to buy in those services or not, but based very much on commercial grounds rather than what we find at the moment is that it's really difficult for us to be sitting there as CEs and not have our local thinking hats on, which often a proposal will fail because it may not be the right thing to do for one independent or one particular council, where for the collective it may well be the right thing to do. So I just wanted to point that out because that is quite a significant change. It will also result and require some additional funding to be put in by those individual parties over time, but the savings that will generate over time will far exceed that extra cost of the governance arrangements.
Okay. Thank you.
And just through the chair, one thing to note to my fellow members on the Taupo Airport Authority Statement of Intent is we have indicated, though we have not quantified, that we're signalling that we anticipate some investment in the airport in the years ahead, which is not something we have actually been as strong as in previous years.
Cool. Thank you. Okay, thanks, Jess. Nothing further to add? The suggested recommendation there. Can I have a move, please? Thanks, Councillor Williamson, seconded by Councillor Kingy. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against? Carried. Thanks, Jess. Right. Flood hazard plan change, 5.10. Sue. Good afternoon, Sue.
Good afternoon. This is the last time I'll appear in front of you on Plan Change 34. We've made it to the end. It's been a very long process. You'll remember just before Christmas you adopted the Commissioner's decision on the submissions to Plan Change 34. It was then publicly notified and we had no appeals when the appeal period finished on the 22nd of February. Great. So the next thing to do is to make it operative, and under the RMA there's some procedural things that you need to do to make it operative, and the first of which is you need to approve it through a recommendation by council.
It's a sign of a great plan change, isn't it? Eh? No appeals. Love that word. No. Well, sorry, Sue. I digressed.
No, that's right.
Yeah. So, great. Well done. Any questions of Sue Mather? Councillor Body?
I don't have any questions, but having sat in with Councillor Stewart and Councillor Williamson for some of those meetings, the effort and that the staff put in was very, very good, and the couple of meetings we went to, everything was handled properly, so I've got to take my hat off. It was a very hard, well, from my point of view, to actually get to grips with, so congratulations to the staff.
Yeah, Your Worship, totally endorse Councillor Body's comments. Yeah. Hedley and Nick and Sue.
Yes, and
cool, Councillor Stewart.
I'd like to endorse that as well. So it's been really, really good working with you. It was your whole team were really, really helpful. Thank you. Thank you.
Great. So one of you selected 3, happy to move. Councillor Williamson, seconded by Councillor Body. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. Thank you, Sue. All right. 5.11, Council's February performance report. Mr. Green.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to be really brief today because it's obviously been a very big agenda and we've got more to go. I think the fact that it's a big agenda is testament to the fact that we've got a lot on at the moment, and that's essentially what the report says and what the cover page says. There's a heck of a lot of projects and therefore pressure on the team at the moment, but that's essentially all I'm going to say, and I think I'll just leave it to the team to walk through each of the particular areas.
Okay, Alan.
Thank you, through the Chair. As commented earlier, internally it's been quite a challenge as far as the financials are concerned and the forecasting situation. There's so much happening in the capital project area that we're still not completely clear as to where we'll be at year end. There's also a challenge out in the investment markets with the way interest rates are and the volatility in the share market. You will see, for example, that we've realised 623,000 in profits on the share market and reduced our unrealised losses to 758,000. It's taken a lot of picking the right time to move within the market from a buy-sell position. But it is a challenge where you've still got cash rate at 1.75. We had a quirk last week where in America the short-term interest rates became higher than the long-term interest rates, which tends to paint a picture that you're heading in the wrong direction. So it's not just internally where we're having to make a lot of decisions as far as unbudgeted expenditure is concerned, but our external markets are a challenge as well. So in saying that, we're still forecasting a year-end position of 9 million. That was before today. But you know, staff are very conscious of what they're doing and trying to do it the most cost-effective way that they can. So
Okay,
at a high
thanks.
level,
Any questions of Alan? All right, thanks very much, Alan. Who's next? Brian, is it? Oh, democracy and planning. Yeah. Thank you, Tina.
Really not much change from last month. You'll note that just the plan change 34, that the date there is changed, or should be changed for today's date rather than the 19th of March. And those two with the red dots you were aware of previously as well.
Okay. Any questions of Tina? No? Community Services, Brian.
Thank you, Your Worship. Similarly, not much further updates from last month. We've talked about some things today. John raised a question about the MV audit, and as we said, we were still awaiting the report, but there are no significant showstoppers. The other thing I will mention to you is we had a presentation yesterday from GNS about a research project that government is funding. It's an $8 million research project. It's called ECLIPSE, which is Eruption or Catastrophe Learning to Implement Preparedness for Future Supervolcano Eruptions. Yes, I know, it's a big one. It's a mouthful. But they will be focusing a lot on here in Rotorua, and particularly next year when there'll be 1,000 of the leading volcanologists in the region. So yeah, just a bit of interest in that space going forward.
Okay. I see your operating costs are probably going to end up the year 400 grand over. Any particular reason for that? Or
you'll appreciate some
yep.
unbudgeted stuff that you've approved previously. There's also legal costs, I think, from memory, is one of those key ones.
Okay.
And given the discussion this morning that you had, you'll appreciate there's likely to be increased in that again, without going into detail.
Okay. Councillor Harvey?
Just a quick query, and I'm not sure where this sits, but the Waiora House, the fact that subsidising of rents, etc., where does that end up?
It's in that, it was in those figures earlier, was it? Or?
I'm probably not the best person to answer that question.
Through the Chair, for this particular financial year, we've encapsulated it in the funding to date, and then from the 1st of July it will be budgeted for in the next annual plan. So it's prepaid up to the 30th of June.
So do we have an understanding of the extra that it's costing council overall, from what they receive to what we pay out?
So when we took over the emergency preparations for evacuating from Waiora House, we took care of the tenancies. Those tenancies are being extended as a result of the works not being completed. Some of that will be covered through, as Alan said, through now. Beyond that, we're looking for a 12-month extension. In that time, council will be looking to make decisions on what the future is, whether it's a rebuild, whether you're in this business or not. Those conversations are yet to be had.
The question though, Dylan, was how much is it? How much are we paying in the leases for those sites?
Those are still being negotiated, so it's carryover of current terms, which I think was around 26,000 for one building. The other one, we've had a change of terms, which is around, they're not willing to go into 6-month term. They're looking at 3 months, so we're still in negotiations in that building.
When we decide what we're going to do, whether it's a rebuild or whatever, we need those costs so we know if it's a rebuild, where it all sits and where the money comes from and so on, as we've probably discussed here.
I think so, sort of what Rosie's getting at. How many tenancies did we have in there? How many tenancies did we have in Wairora House, even though Wairora House ran that?
So in Wairora House's main building, which is the only building that's been subject to the evacuation, you have around 12 tenants, organisations. 2 of those are resident in Tamamuti Street, which is Citizens Advice Bureau.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where they are. So you got 12 tenancy. They were paying their current rent. They're still paying that current value of rent.
They are.
Yeah. So what I think Rosie's getting at is what is the difference you're paying private landlords now?
Yeah, I don't have that.
No,
sorry,
okay.
I'll come back to you with that.
So we'll at some stage we'll find that out. Okay.
Yep.
Is that right, Rosie? Is that what? Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
I guess through the chair, what Councillor Harvey's trying to say is the sooner we make a decision and look at what we're doing, the better.
Yeah.
So on that, you've made the decision earlier on today. The next step for us, and we'll do that as soon as we can, is to have a workshop with you and then ultimately the trust as well, to have a conversation around that. As part of that workshop, we'll make sure you've got all those facts and figures so that you can make an informed decision.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Water. Sorry. Community facilities.
Not much change. Obviously, we still have that timing issue at the front in terms of our 200k, but probably the big change that's coming through is some works that are going to be put down at the venues. One of those is around specifically the hydroslide replacement. Some comms is coming out around that shortly, and the impact on the users, as well as that the deck refurbishment, but also the recognising some conversations that were had in Turangi around the Turangi Reserve Management Plan. We are, as officers, working through those conversations alongside the Community Board, just for those councillors that were present. But other than that, I'll take the report as read, Your Worship.
Cool. Thank you. Any questions, Dylan, on that? No. Water. Kevin.
Well, I'll try and keep it brief. So water in particular, there's a couple of large projects which will get rid of the majority of the capital works there, which is the Taupo water plant upgrade, about $1.7 million there, and then Lock Eagles will be nearing completion too by the end of this financial year, which is another $2.2 million. The renewal side you see is quite well down, but that's been let into contract last month down in Turangi, and that's responsible for about just over $2 million worth of those renewals. The other thing in the water is we just put a mention of the protozoal compliance that we're going around putting UV in over the next few years, and we've got a lot of non-compliances there for telemetry being down and comms being out, so that's something that the team are working really hard on at the moment, and we're spending some of those operational budgets in that space because it's important to be compliant. Any other questions for water?
Transport?
So transport, just a lot of...
Sorry.
Yep.
This has been here for a while. In regards of the upgrade of the Acacia Bay water supply to comply with DWSNZ, the long-term plan says 300, but our agenda items keep showing 311,000. Would there be a reason for that?
Not off the top of my head. I can find that out and get back.
Okay, thanks. So, Kevin.
Transport.
So transport is, we're in the sealing season. There's been a lot of sealing happening, Broadlands Road, various links along there, and the next lot of areas are to be done around Forest Road, Spencer Road, Tataki Road, McLean Road, Pukawa Road. So there's a whole heap of them all happening now in March and April.
Cool.
Nothing else on transport to report?
No.
Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
I'm still going to meet with yourself and Mr. Lewis eventually over the LED lighting. Which of the areas that have been covered to date are now with those P-class road lightings? Is that right? The agenda item states that we're 60% has been installed.
Yes, so through the chair, forgive me, I've got lost in this lot of emails. So if Mr. Lewis can help me out on this one, it'd be great. Thanks.
Can you please repeat the question?
What I'm asking is the agenda item shows that 60% of the LED lighting has been done.
Yes.
Now, some time ago, I've got it here, but we approved expenditure for the lighting that is classed for the P roads, and I've asked for what a P road is. I've got it from NZTA.
Yep.
You also indicated that I think it's a V LED light that will be going in. So are they two completely different budget measures?
Same budget, they're different classes of road. To use an example, your P class is typically your local roads, so anything might be easier, and the V class is arterial roads, so a road like Spa Road, Lake Terrace, Tahara, Tararipa, those are VCAT roads in terms of lighting, and all of the other minor roads are P class.
Minor roads, what my concerns, I've expressed it to His Worship, is that a search of the NZ Transport Specification and Guidelines for Road Lighting Design states that a Category P lighting provides a lit environment to help pedestrians orientate themselves and detect potential hazards. And if we take one area that I know that where they've been put in, it doesn't quite do that. That's why I'm wondering whether the P road or class lights in the V will make any difference. Because I believe we need a brighter light in those pedestrian areas.
Within that P category, lighting is also under the NZTA categories, talks about local roads, so it's a local road for pedestrian use. The V category lighting is primarily for vehicle traffic.
While you're there, Dennis, the lower part of Spa Road, you know, where there was some substandard seal put down, did that ever get resolved?
It hasn't been repaired yet.
Okay.
We have got the contractors currently working through the district doing repairs.
Right.
I don't have a date for Spa Road,
that's right.
but he is aware of that one and it will be repaired.
Okay, cool. Someone asked the other day. Thanks, Dennis.
No, I'll take that as read. I think just one thing there on page 150 is the Waikato Regional Council endorsement actions. We've put those through to you before as CWU and for independent emails, but we thought we'd collate it all here in one place. You will note the current status has been moved along, so we've moved forward on all of those complaints.
Lovely, lovely. All right. What's next? Stormwater. Solid waste.
Yeah, I'll take solid waste and stormwater as read because they're pretty standard. Thanks.
Very good. Okay.
And me to
Economic
finish,
development.
I have nothing at SAPT. We're currently going through the DGLT board recruitment at the moment, so they'll be coming to you at some point for interviews.
Yep, cool. And we've got the airport workshop coming up.
Yep.
Yep. Next week, isn't it?
That's going to be heavy going, so I just need you to make sure you have good breakfast.
Are you saying we're looking tired? No problem. Yeah, good. That's exciting. Okay, thank you very much, John. Nothing further to add on economic development. That's it. Yep. So thank you, Mr. CEO. There's a suggested recommendation there. Thank you, Councillor Jollins. Seconded by Councillor Boddy. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Right, adoption of draft fees and charges. Thank you very much. Okay, Edley and Scott. Nice to see you, Scott.
Good afternoon, how are you?
You get a run this afternoon, eh?
Oh, this
Good
is
to
it,
see
I
you.
know. This is it. This is my moment.
Right, we've allowed you 20 minutes. No.
Right,
Edley,
good afternoon, everyone.
yeah,
so,
good afternoon.
Following the workshop that we had with you last week, we have returned today with the fees and charges to be adopted for consultation. A couple of points. First one is, on top of that item I've just handed you, there's a statement of proposal which essentially is just setting out what the consultation process is, timeframes, and just pulling out a few of the key changes that are proposed. So if you've got, I know you've only just received this, but if you take an opportunity just to have a look through those, and if there's any that you'd like us to elevate up, or any that are in there that you don't think should be, let us know. And then flowing through behind that is the schedule of fees and charges. So basically, from the copy that you received last week, we went through that obviously line by line. There were some proposed changes suggested, and those are highlighted in yellow. So where you see yellow in there, so if we want to go through it, page 4, essentially around the responsible owner application fee for dogs, we've added in there payable upon initial application only, just to make it clear that that isn't an ongoing fee, it is only a one-off unless the owner's circumstances change. The next change is on page 9. So on the left-hand side, left-hand side, the notified application. So originally that was proposed to go to 20,000, but on your advice last week, it's just been retained at 10,000. Further down, some wording was added there, again following your advice around just adding in the words application for road naming, just to make it clear that that's what that was. And then the next set of changes begin on page 19 at the bottom, under AC bars. So I'll turn to Scott just to talk through those. Oh, sorry, yes, actually, that is a good point. So bottom of page 12 on the right-hand side, I have just followed that up. From my understanding is that penalty has never been charged because we've never had an instance to charge it, but there is no issue, it would seem, with increasing that fee from $20 to $50. So if you, as per your advice last week, if you're comfortable with that, we can certainly keep that at $50 for the consultation period. And then AC bars on page 19 onwards.
Okay, thank you. AC bars, Scotty.
Okay, so I do apologise for missing the workshop last Tuesday. Unfortunately, I had a sick little girl that demanded all my attention. Yeah. But I believe the conversation, or how we've structured the fees and charges, was around bringing alignment across all the activities under the one roof. So there's a proven methodology and an ability from this point moving forward to be able to justify any further fees and charges changes. I believe that matrix, or that formula, was adopted or presented, and then understandably some of those activities create a higher leap in fees, so we've reduced those down to the suggested between $5 and $15 moving, and so as you can see, if you go through the highlighted areas, you can see the ones that we've made the amendments to. So if there's anything in there in particular that you guys want to discuss.
Chairman, just for my own interest, because I've been asked, when does the senior kick in? Is it gold card, or how does the senior work?
That's off the top of my head, Councillor. Unfortunately, I couldn't tell you. I believe it's the gold card. Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah. Who would know?
No. Yeah. All right. Okay. Any questions, Scotty? It all seems to be sort of reasonable, doesn't it? Yeah, 3 months, so $80. Yeah. Okay. Yep. All right. Yeah. Right. Nothing else, Hadley?
No, nothing further. obviously, if you have only just got this, I'm just conscious that just to give you the opportunity just to look through those few pages that have
You got
changed.
the dogs right, eh? Sure you got those dogs right?
I think Nigel assures us that we have, but we'll wait and see.
So
with those planning, sorry, Tina, with those planning things, the 20 down to 10, you proposed, weren't we going to do a pro rata, or I thought it was going to be a bit? Yeah, you just halve the price basically.
Yeah.
I thought we'd talked about certain stages, certain amount kicks in. Was that? Were you here, Scotty, last? Yeah, we didn't. Okay, that's all right. I'm happy with that. Anyway, I thought we were sort of, the 20 grand was actually a reflection of what the cost was going to be, and I thought we were going to do 5, sort of thing, up to 20. But anyway, I could be wrong. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Your worship.
No problem. Yeah. Okay. Councillor Williamson.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Just to clarify, on page 25, you've got under the climbing wall for this year. There's been no charge for for 3 months.
The 3 months was implemented this time, so it got removed a couple of years ago, and due to some feedback from visitors, we've implemented the 3 month.
Is that just a reflection?
It's more of a reflection of the demographic of people that tend to use this. They don't want to, or they don't have the. It's about a cost of efficiency for them. They don't want to lay up 6 months or 12 months up front.
Scotty, you got away pretty scot-free, haven't you? Really, there's been no difficult questions for you. You're a lucky man. All right, suggested recommendation up there. 1920. I have a mover. Moved by Councillor Hackling, seconded by Councillor Williamson. All those in favour, please say aye. It's against, carried. Thanks, gentlemen. Right. 5.13, 255 Crown Road. Proposed vesting to enable sale of balance lot. Gemma. Hi, Gemma. How are you? Good.
Sorry,
Yep.
didn't realise it was off. I saw a yellow light and thought it was on.
Yeah.
If it's all right, I'd just like to take the paper as read and take any questions. The only one thing I did notice was that I referred under financial considerations to the word subdivision, and it's essentially surveying works to enable the Public Works Act process, that rather than subdivision purely in the sense of RMA terms. So yeah, so that's about it.
Very good. Straightforward. Convenience, yep. All right, do I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Jolland. Second, Councillor Body. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against. Thanks, Gemma. We'll see you again shortly. Right. 5.1 triennium elections, which are coming up in 2022. Oh, in 2019. Really? That can't be right. Yeah. Let us know your intentions now. No, that's right. All right. Right. So this is what we've done in previous elections: is obviously have it in random, pseudo random order or something. Is that right, Tina? Sorry, Tina.
Yep, that's okay. This is one of the decisions we have to make each time prior to an election in terms of candidates' names, and we're suggesting here that it's random, so each voting paper, the names will come out in a different order.
Cool. With someone that's surname starts with T, I'm happy to second it. I'm always last on the list. Anyway, so it's been moved. Anyone want to talk about it? So moved by Councillor John, seconded by myself. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. It's against, carried. Right. 5.15.
So, yeah, so you've got a bit of work coming up, as you can see there. Quite a lot of workshops on the 2nd of April, and also to be added in, which aren't there at the moment, but you'll be getting meeting invites very shortly in terms of the consultation events for the consultation document process.
Lovely. Okay, thanks, Tina. There's no conferences. Anyone on? Okay. All right. Do I have a mover, please? That no change of dates or anything. It's all bang on. Yep. Thank you, Councillor John. Seconded by Councillor Kingy. Sorry. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. 5.16 members' reports. Any members' reports that are written, they could be tabled up here. Or anyone wants to verbally talk to anything? No? All right, thank you very much. Okay, confidential section there. We can move into confidence for the reasons outlined. Over mover, please. Moved by Councillor John, seconded by Councillor Hickling. All those in favour, please say aye. Okay, so the public part of the meeting is closed. Thank you very much. We'll just give a couple of minutes to